بسم الله، باسم الشعب افتتح الجلسة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقل اعملوا فسيرى الله عملكم ورسوله والمؤمنون. صدق الله العظيم. الاعتذارات.
يعتذر السادة الأعضاء: السيدة العضو ألفت كامل عبد المجيد، السيدة العضو صفاء جابر، السيد العضو عادل النجار، السيد العضو علي الدسوقي، السيد العضو محمد تيسير مطر، السيد العضو وحيد فودة. يعتذر هؤلاء عن عدم حضور جلسة اليوم.
السادة الأعضاء، أود في بداية الجلسة أن أرحب باسمي وباسمكم جميعاً بسيادة الدكتور مصطفى مدبولي رئيس مجلس الوزراء. يحضر سيادته معنا اليوم للرد على طلبات الإحاطة المدرجة بجدول أعمال الجلسة، وقد طلب سيادة المستشار وزير شؤون المجالس النيابية حضور جلسة المجلس لكل من السادة: اللواء أسامة سعد أمين عام مجلس الوزراء، اللواء حسام نبيل مساعد أمين عام مجلس الوزراء لشؤون المجالس النيابية، الأستاذ هاني يونس المستشار الإعلامي لسيادته، المستشار سامح الخشن المتحدث الرسمي لمجلس الوزراء جلسة المجلس أثناء نظر طلبات الإحاطة الموجهة لسيادته. فهل يأذن المجلس في ذلك؟ موافقة. إذا ليتفضلوا بحضور الجلسة. وليتفضل سيادته بالتوجه إلى المنبر. تفضل سيادة الدكتور. السادة الأعضاء، بجدول أعمال الجلسة 16 طلب إحاطة موجهة لسيادة الدكتور رئيس مجلس الوزراء بشأن التدابير والإجراءات التي اتخذتها الحكومة تجاه منع محاولات التهجير القسري للفلسطينيين من قطاع غزة. وسوف تجرى المناقشة على النحو التالي: أولاً، مدة الحديث لكل نائب 4 دقائق بحيث يتم غلق مكبر الصوت بعد انتهاء المدة. ثانياً، يتحدث السادة النواب الواردة أسماؤهم في البنود من 1 إلى 16 من ثالثاً. بعدها نستمع إلى رد سيادة الدكتور رئيس مجلس الوزراء. ثالثاً، عدم السماح بالخروج على موضوع الأداة الرقابية المقدمة، وإلا فسوف يتم غلق مكبر الصوت إلكترونياً في الحال. الآن نبدأ نظر طلبات الإحاطة. يتفضل سيادة النائب عبد الهادي القصبي بالإدلاء ببيانه.
شكرا سيادة الرئيس. طلب الإحاطة المقدم مني موجه إلى دولة السيد رئيس مجلس الوزراء الأستاذ الدكتور مصطفى مدبولي بشأن المجازر التي يرتكبها العدوان الصهيوني ضد الشعب الفلسطيني، وعدم وضوح السياسات إزاء مسألة التهجير القسري. دولة الرئيس منذ اللحظة الأولى
since the first moment
لبدء هجوم
of the
الدولة
attack
الإسرائيلية على
by
شعب
Israel
فلسطين
on the Palestinian people,
خرج فخامة السيد الرئيس
His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi
وأعلن للعالم
declared to the whole world
بكل قوة
with all his
وكل
might
وضوح
and clarity
موقف
Egypt's
الدولة
stance.
المصرية. وبعدها
After that,
انتفض الشعب المصري
the
بالكامل
Egyptian citizens
وخرج للميادين
went out
والشوارع
in support
مؤيدا
of
لتوجه القيادة
the
السياسية
Egyptian leadership and political leadership,
مطالبا
calling for
بعدم تفريغ القضية الفلسطينية
the
من مضمونها.
strength of Egypt in facing and supporting the Palestinian cause.
رئيس مجلس النواب
His
توجيه
Excellency,
دعوة
the head of the parliament,
إلى
also
نواب الشعب
asked
هنا في
members of
هذه
parliament
القاعة
in this hall,
تلك الجلسة
in parliament, in one of the sessions
رفعنا فيها علم مصر
where we
مع علم الدولة الفلسطينية
rose the Egyptian and Palestinian flags together,
واكتست السيدات النائبات
and the members of
الثياب
parliament
الأسود
were all in mourning.
حزنا
The ladies,
من
the female members of
الدولي
parliament were wearing black,
الذي يكيل بمكيالين
mourning the international community's
على
stance,
الأطفال والشهداء.
the pain over the children and the martyrs. This historic session of parliament,
فيها جميع نواب الشعب
we all agreed
على تفويض
the need
فخامة السيد الرئيس
to
باتخاذ كافة الإجراءات
give President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi our
بالحفاظ
support
على الأمن
to support our national security and protect the Egyptian national security. After
كما
this,
تعلمون سيادتكم
as you all know,
الشعب المصري يا سيادة الرئيس
the Egyptian citizens, Mr. President,
يتابع تلك القضية
are following
من خلال شاشات
very
التلفزيون
closely the Palestinian
لحظة بلحظة
cause through television reports and media reports
تصعيدا
every moment. And of course, we are witnessing the massacres
ضد الشعب
and the
الفلسطيني
further escalations happening
الأطفال
against the
والنساء
Palestinians,
والشيوخ
the murdering
وهدم
of
المنازل
children, women, and the
والتعدي على
elderly,
المستشفيات
the attacks on civilian homes,
والنزوح
hospitals, and the
من
further
الشمال
attract
إلى الجنوب
and the movement from the north to the south.
مؤلم.
A very painful scene
العالم كله
indeed.
يرى هذا
The,
المشهد.
the whole world is
هذا
watching,
المشهد يا سيادة الرئيس
and this, Mr. President,
لدينا ولدى الشعب قلق
of course,
بشأن
worries
هذا الأمر.
us as Egyptian citizens.
ومن حق الشعب المصري
And of course,
أن يعلم
it
بوضوح
is the Egyptian citizens' right to know clearly
الدولة المصرية
the Egyptian state stance and vision
تلك المجازر
towards these massacres that are occurring every day against the Palestinian people.
من حق الشعب المصري يا سيادة الرئيس
The Egyptian citizens have a right to know and to listen
رأي الحكومة
to the state's
إيذاء الإعلام
position,
الإسرائيلي والإعلام الدولي وما
to see how they view international media and Israeli media
سيادة الرئيس
and their false claims and reports.
الشعب الفلسطيني
We are now seeing the Palestinian people being pushed away from their lands, from the north to the south, and thousands of the Palestinian people are now stuck by the Rafah crossing.
ما هو موقف الحكومة المصرية
What is the Egyptian stance towards this, Your Excellency? What are the policies and steps put in place and taken by the Egyptian government in this regard? Before I end
يا سيادة الرئيس
my address
وقبل أن
and before
نستمع بعد
I
أن نستمع إلى مداخلات السادة الزملاء وقبل أن
listen
نستمع
to
إلى دولة السيد رئيس مجلس
the rest
أود أن أؤكد
of
أن الشعب
my
المصري
colleagues, I would like to
يساند الشعب
further
الفلسطيني القوي الأبي
say that the Egyptian people are very much supporting our Palestinian brethren, and I'd like to confirm our support for our Palestinian brothers and sisters. I again repeat, all the members of parliament, representatives of the Egyptian population, confirm that we refuse the displacement of the Palestinian people into Sinai. We totally reject as members of parliament, and we cannot even imagine, no one in the world should imagine that Egyptians would ever allow something like this. In our previous session, we delegated the head of state. Again, in this session, we again further delegate to the president to do whatever is necessary and whatever is needed to protect the Egyptian national security. Thank you, Your Excellency, Head of Parliament. Member of Parliament, Ghazi Saad. Thank you, Your Excellency. We welcome the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, in the House of the Egyptian people. Today, we are asking for a clear response to show us what steps have been taken by the Egyptian government for the rights of the Palestinians. Every minute, we are seeing the death of children, elderly, women, the destruction of homes, mosques, churches, hospitals. The Israelis, the occupiers, are trying to fulfill their old plan. And we, as the sons of Sinai, look up to our political leadership and reject the displacement of the Palestinians into Sinai, as this will dilute the Palestinian cause, which we have fought for and defended with our lives for the last years. Today, Mr. Prime Minister, we want a clear response telling us what the government is planning to do to face the Israeli plans. Also, the plans by the Egyptian government to get more aid delivered to our Palestinian brothers. We need a clear verification of the political leadership with regards to their role in the cessation of hostilities and the massacres we are seeing. We need to see how the state is going to deal with all this. And since all the previous leaders, the terrorism in Sinai, we have seen before how they have tried to take Sinai over. Sinai is an issue of national security. We need to further develop Sinai. The government has indeed given Sinai more attention, and now we need more Egyptians to be in Sinai, as this would be the first way to protect Sinai. We need over 5 million Egyptians to be in Sinai and not leave Sinai. Mr. Ahmed Khalif Khairallah, Member of Parliament. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Of course, this is a very important moment in history, and we have seen the Israeli occupiers always attacking civilians, always looking for weaknesses. And unfortunately, we have never seen the peoples and different states and international community coming together to support the Palestinian cause. Today, we are telling the Palestinians that you are the roadmap, you are the compass. you have been told before that you have sold your land. However, this is not true. Even though with all the massacres and the killing of your children, you are still on your lands and not wanting to leave it. We are telling you today very clearly, we unfortunately are dealing with the Israeli occupation that is trying to move all the people of Gaza into Khan Yunis and then over to Rafah, and again the attack on Rafah, and to find 1.5 million Palestinians by the border crossing. We've already said several times that our leadership has kept our border crossing open for aid, for the delivery of aid and for the reception of the injured and the reception even of the premature prenatal babies that we have recently received. However, we are seeing lies and deceit being told to the international community about Egypt that the crossing is closed. We are, with our political leadership, with their historic stance with regards to the Palestinian cause. And of course, our stance and our political leadership will delay this Israeli aggression and the Israeli plan to evacuate the Palestinians off their land. This is indeed a war crime, and a crime and a war in the entire region. We are saying that the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves and resist. Our political leadership here in Egypt and the Egyptian people and the Egyptian parliament are saying this clearly. Be careful, and we have patience. We are losing our patience. Did you forget 1939? We are saying this is clear. It is now an issue of we will try our best to give as much of the humanitarian aid to the Palestinians through the Rafah border crossing. We are seeing now, after they have failed to displace the Palestinians, they are now killing them and killing their children. Where is the international community? Where is the international community when over 1,000 people are dying on a daily basis? The attack on hospitals and schools. How is this clear? We know this is a massacre, and we are saying this clearly. And we are saying we are aware of the consequences of our support. And we would never, ever, ever, we would never, ever gain illegally. We would rather lose everything but follow the truth. The truth. We again confirm and clarify. No, we will never ever allow the displacement of the Palestinians, and we will, as Egyptians, reject this. Secondly, we are supporting our political leadership. The Egyptian border crossing in Rafah is open and will continue to be opened for the reception of the injured and, of course, the delivery of aid and humanitarian aid all the time, as much as we can, to the Palestinians. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Your Excellency, and I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister. We will start with a Bible verse from Matthew. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, murderer of your prophets, how many times have I tried to bring you together, yet you are always separating. We are now at a historical moment. We are confirming once and again. It is time to know, it is time to see that the request for the establishment of a Palestinian state from 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital is now the priority. Since the occupation forces and their attack on the 7th of October, the Egyptian stance has been very noble and a humanitarian stance, regardless of the international community's ignorance and turning a blind eye to the massacre of children, women, and the elderly. 70% of the martyrs are women and children. 3,500 women and over 5,000 children. Even the civil service workers, over 60 journalists, over 200 medical practitioners, all have been martyred as a result of these Israeli attacks. Regardless of all of this, and regardless of the international community's ignorance that claims to care for humanitarian rights, even animals and plants, yet they have totally ignored our humanitarian rights. The Egyptian government, from the first day, has had certain aims. The first and foremost, to not dilute the Palestinian cause, the rejection of displacement of the Palestinians into Sinai, the need to reach an immediate ceasefire, non-conditional ceasefire, the need for a two-state solution, which you have seen being called for by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in several gatherings in the last 45 phone calls and different meetings with different international leaders, even with his latest meeting with the German Chancellor. We have seen the president's stance very clearly. If now the Israeli occupation forces are using Hamas as an excuse to attack the people in the Gaza Strip, were Hamas also there in Lebanon or in other previous attacks? The Israeli occupation forces only want, since the 1970s, to get the Palestinians off of their land, and this project that they have been trying to implement. Egypt is hosting over 9 million guests. We never call them, as President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi always calls them, guests. We never call them refugees. But of course, to support the Palestinian cause, the Egyptian stance has been extremely clear. The president always puts specific plans to protect the Egyptian national security and the Palestinian cause. Finally, Mr. President, I once again support President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. I was one of the millions who was on the streets on the 20th of October to ask that the Palestinians not leave their land. And I ask that the president keep this cause top of his priorities. Long live Egypt. Mr. Ahmed Fouad Abaza, Member of Parliament. In the beginning, I would like to say that the Palestinian cause, since the 7th of October, there has been a theory, a conspiracy theory against the Egyptian state. We are seeing that the Israeli occupation forces are now only attacking the Palestinian civilians, killing Palestinian children and women. Palestinian civilians massacred in front of our eyes with no mercy. On top, killing kids in schools, killing people, refugees in hospitals. Collective punishment for what? I guarantee that these attacks are collective punishment, and we are again putting our full support behind President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and our Prime Minister as they try to get as much humanitarian aid delivered as possible from the Egyptian side to our Palestinian brethren. All of us Egyptian people are behind you, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. We support you. We will never ever leave the Palestinian cause, and we will never leave a grain of Egyptian land, a grain of sand of Egyptian land to be overtaken. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Mustafa Bakri, Member of Parliament. What does displacement mean? This means going back to war. This means the dissolution of the Palestinian cause. Since 1948, we all know the Israeli plan and several trials through the United Nations and the United States in 1951 and 55. Even in 2004, we've seen the plan of land swapping, 720 kilometers from Sinai in exchange for 720 kilometers of Nakama. And this has resumed after 13 days. After 6 days, 13th of October, we saw a report by the Israeli security forces saying, number one, we kill the Palestinians. Number two, we gather the Palestinians and surround them. Number three, we push them into Sinai in Egypt. This plan that is saying to establish cities and tents in Sinai, then humanitarian corridors, then another city from Rafah to Arish. The Israeli Minister of Finance said the exact same thing, so did Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. They have all confirmed this Israeli plot. We are in front of an Israeli plot targeting Egypt and the dissolution of the Palestinian cause. And now, after Gaza, the plan is to even move them to the west of Jordan. Of course, Mr. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi was already aware of this plan since the beginning, and he said, we will not allow the resolution of the Palestinian cause. We as Egypt, we will not allow this. Egypt will never be a bystander in this regard. He said, even if we lose millions of martyrs, we will never give the Egyptian national security away. From here, we tell our Palestinian brethren and sons, and the sons of Gaza, that are being massacred in front of the cowardly international community and the Arab region that is still trying to hold strong. Egypt has taken the strongest political stance as well as the humanitarian stance from the beginning of this. What do we need now, Mr. Prime Minister? As a member of parliament and a representative of the Egyptian people, we are asking for a committee to discuss relations between the committees and We are seeing now attacks saying that Egypt has broken our peace treaty, and this is, of course, not true. We have to see a solution for this. Number two, the international law gives us the right to complain at the criminal court of justice that what is happening, that this is a war crime. Number three, we have to have a very urgent complaint to the United Nations. We have to put our trust in our political leadership and our Egyptian army, and we will never ever allow this, our political leadership, especially President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who has built a great Egyptian army. It will never allow. Everyone knows that our leadership is protecting our national security. This is the time now for everyone to know that our great Egyptian army and our great leader has given a great message that the Egyptian national security comes on top of every other agenda. This is a historical moment indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister, for coming. And this is our time. This is time for our strength and for all our Palestinians. We will never ever let go of the Palestinian cause. We will never allow them to be pushed into Egyptian land. It's now time for the world to know that Egyptian borders are a red line. We will not give up even a grain of sand on Egyptian land. From here, we announce our support behind President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and our political leadership. And from here, we are supporting our leadership in their plan to protect our national security. And every single centimeter of Egyptian land is to be protected, and we will never let go of a single inch of our land. After all the people martyred, after all the blood we've seen shed by the Palestinians, over 35,000 Palestinians injured, and all the blood of the children and the women that we have seen, we will never ever let the Palestinian cause down. Where are you? Where are you? Where is the United Nations Security Council? Where are human rights organizations? Where are you? However, the Egyptian nationalism and the Egyptian people are here, and the Palestinian cause is our cause, and this cause is our cause. What we are seeing is unbearable. We will never ever let this cause down. This is their belief, and this is why we are with our armies and our political leadership telling you we will always protect our Egyptian national security through our Egyptian army. And we are ready, and we have every right to protect our land. We know of your plans from the 60s and 70s. Until today, they believe that Sinai can be returned to them, but this will never happen. The sons of Sinai deserve all our respect and admiration. The martyrs respect all the respect and admiration. The development in Sinai is what is going to protect our national security and protect Sinai. The development of Sinai is critical during this stage. And that is why we have to have our strategic vision by our strategic leadership, who has developed the Sinai Peninsula since day one, developed roads, developed infrastructure and tunnels, allowing easy access to Sinai, allowing our Egyptian army to be there as quickly as needed to protect our national securities. Strategic thinking on behalf of our leadership and his aim to protect our borders and our land, so we can never become like any country like Libya, Gaza, or Sudan, like all the countries that have had conspiracies against them. Mr. Prime Minister, I hope and ask of you for practical solutions and the way we deal. We are very upset. We cannot accept what we are seeing anymore. For the sake of our Palestinian brothers, with regards to how you will deal with the situation, we want practical steps in order to show the world. We want to show the world our stance as clearly as possible, regardless of what extreme measures we need to take in this regard. We are willing to take whatever stance is needed and face whatever hardships will result, as we did before in the 60s and 70s with former President Gamal Abdel Nasser. We are waiting for sure our national stance by our president. Thank you very much. Long live the great Egyptian army. Long live the great Egyptian police and everyone in charge of our national security and our president, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Thank you. Mr. Karim Darwish, Member of Parliament. Thank you, Your Excellency. I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister. This is a very important meeting at a very important time and a very important topic that concerns every Egyptian and is a point of discussion for every Egyptian. This unprecedented attack by the Israelis on the Palestinians. I'd like to start by mentioning and confirming that the displacement of the Palestinians is an international unacceptable crime according to international law, and everyone from the international community that has turned a blind eye to this war crime is a part of it. Everyone that has assisted the Israeli occupation forces is a part of this war crime. Everyone taking part in this crime is to blame. We are a land of peace, and we believe in peace, and we call for peace. However, at the same time, we are warning that Egyptian national security is a red line. The Egyptian national security is not to be attacked. And this, if this is attacked, this will have great instability in the region and the world as a whole. They are red lines we will never allow. As 105 million Egyptians are backing President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and we will never allow anything to come close to our Egyptian national security for our Egyptian land. Mr. President, Mr. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was the first one to warn the world that this displacement of the Palestinians was totally unacceptable, and it was all related to an issue of a two-state solution. The issue here is related to the Palestinian cause. However, this is our role as Egypt. This is what history will record for Egypt and its leadership. We have to, from here, send our encouragement to the Palestinian people that are refusing to leave their lands, and they know the critical period in history that they are in now and the Palestinian cause. Finally, I would like to hear from you, Mr. Prime Minister, the latest developments with regards to the leadership's approach to the latest developments in Gaza and the issues related to the displacement of the Palestinians off of their land, outside their land. Again, as I said in the beginning, this issue involves every single Egyptian. Every single Egyptian household is discussing this issue. And hence, it is the right of all Egyptians to know what the plans of the Egyptian government are in the upcoming stage. May God protect Egypt, its people, and its leadership. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ahmed El Awadi, Member of Parliament. Thank you, Excellency. I'd like to start by welcoming the Prime Minister in our historic session here at Parliament that we are discussing the latest Palestinian crises and what is happening to the Palestinians over the last 45 days. Since the attacks on the 7th of October until today, the Palestinian people are being massacred and subjected to war crimes and a genocide. Unfortunately, these crimes against the Palestinians are occurring under unacceptable international community silence, which goes against every single international law, again showing their shortcomings as the international community that is unable to stop the Israeli occupation. Of course, we know through all the media outlets the Israeli plan to remove the Palestinians off their land, move them away from Gaza, and how this is detrimental to the Palestinian cause and to our Egyptian national security. Of course, we totally reject this plan and this plot by the Israeli occupation and their attack on our Egyptian national security is unaccepted. Our leadership has discussed this issue, saying that our national security is a red line and we would never allow the Palestinians to be removed off their lands and the dissolution of the Palestinian cause. Even the Palestinians themselves refuse this. We want to know from our government, are there steps being taken in case something like this were to happen? Do we have a plan as the government to stop the displacement? Of course, Israel continues its daily attacks against the Palestinians. We've seen war crimes, the killing of children and women, unbelievable sights that hurt hearts of all the Egyptians, and we are all sympathetic, of course, to the Palestinian cause. Since the beginning of the Palestinian cause, we have seen the Egyptians supporting it since day one. Every single war since 1948 till 1967 was the result of the Palestinian issue. Egypt has given already over 120,000 martyrs for this Palestinian cause. And until today, Egypt supports the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian people with different forms of help and support that we are seeing to call for a ceasefire and the getting of humanitarian aid and medical aid, and working towards a two-state solution, which Egypt has worked for tirelessly. Of course, our leadership and our Egyptian government has done a lot of effort to get humanitarian aid and to receive the injured and wounded. And now you would like to know what can be done to further our assistance to the Palestinians, and what can we do to reach a ceasefire, especially with regards to Gaza, the need for a ceasefire to allow the sustainable delivery of humanitarian aid. Egypt, of course, cares very much for the rights of the Palestinians, and we are trying our best as the Egyptian leadership, and the Egyptian army is more than capable of protecting our national security. We have a peace agreement between Israel. However, what if there's anything that would traumatize this agreement? We are all behind our political leadership to do what is fit to protect our national security here in Egypt. We are further, once again, calling on behalf of the Egyptians. We are calling upon President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to do whatever he thinks necessary to protect our national security and our lands and the Palestinian cause. I already have some military experience and have taken part in one of the wars, and I know that the Israeli enemies are cowardly. And I have every faith in the Egyptian army and the Egyptian people in the protection of our national security, and of course to our President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Long live Egypt, long live Egypt, long live Egypt. Thank you. Mrs. Amira Sauber, Member of Parliament. Thank you, sir, Mr. President, and welcome to the Prime Minister. Before I start, I would like to extend all my greetings to the Palestinians who have given the whole entire world a lesson when it comes to resistance and the right to life. The Egyptians stand behind our Palestinian brethren, behind the cause of causes, the Palestinian cause. And of course, our national security in Egypt is interrelated to this cause. We have seen on the 29th of November, we will see over 67 years passing over the UN resolution for a two-state solution, yet nothing has yet come to fruition. We are seeing crimes against humanity. We have seen the international community turning a blind eye. The major world powers have seen the international leaderships, the international governments have seen their own people supporting the Palestinian cause, yet turning a blind eye to them. We have seen some ministers being removed from their positions in different countries around the world as a result of the support to the Palestinian cause. We have seen the terrorism that is occurring. Yet, what is being done? Nothing. We are seeing a genocide, a war crime that has never been witnessed before. If we look at other parliaments and other members of parliament all around the world, a ceasefire, a humanitarian ceasefire is even being rejected by the international community in different international parliaments. And from here, I am asking all these leaders to please look back on your stances, review the facts on the ground. Today, we are in front of international law that is not even declaring this as a war crime, officially declaring it as a war crime. How is this acceptable? The International Court should say what this is. We've seen NGOs already calling it what it is. We are taking a look as NGOs at these war crimes, and they must be held accountable. If we're going to look at the fourth estate, where is the international media? Where are the media outlets that are supposed to do their role in showing the truth? Yet, we're not seeing a fair representation of the facts, of the truth. The Egyptian stance is historical indeed with regards to the Palestinian cause, as we are supporting it. And we will do everything in our power to stop the resolution of the Palestinian cause. We will never stop asking for an immediate ceasefire. We will never stop calling for this from all the international leaders. Secondly, the humanitarian aid, another issue. Every minute we are seeing an attack on a hospital, on a school. We're seeing the Palestinians being pushed off their land and forced to move away from their homes. Today, we have to discuss this issue. We have to discuss the issue. Egypt has given over 4 times as much as the international community with regards to the aid that is being delivered into Gaza. Today, we have seen, now it's time for people all around the world to call for peace, call for the two-state solution and its implementation. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. I wait to hear more with regards to the state's role in the humanitarian aid, as well as reaching a ceasefire and the Egyptian efforts in this regard. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ibrahim Abu Shaira, Member of Parliament. Thank you, Mr. President. First, I would like to welcome the Prime Minister in the Parliament. Listen to me, please. I am from the families of Rafah, and I know exactly what is happening over there. Over the last 50 and 100 years, we have seen talk that the Palestinians are coming into Sinai. Egypt already has 10 million visitors, so they can take more. However, the issue is about Sinai, how we have regained our land through the October War. What everyone must know is the resistance comes from war. The Egyptians might feel pain and sympathy with regards to what is happening. When someone comes here, we will, of course, protect them. However, I cannot guarantee that they might respect our laws here, our national laws. I do not want to be drawn into this conflict, Mr. Prime Minister. I'm asking you to please allow for more humanitarian aid to pass to Gaza, especially from Arish. And now I'm asking for the role of diplomacy on Israel as well as the Hamas group to stop the attacks on both sides. The future is bleak if nothing happens. We are surrounded by 6 different army bases from all around the world. This is not a game. War is destruction. I've been in Sinai for over 12 years and I can see the destruction that results from war. I have a message. Sinai, with everything that it owns and everything that it possesses, from every rock, tree, and human, this is Egyptian land. Remove the name of Sinai from your evil plans. This is my message. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Abdul Menaim Imam, Member of Parliament. Amongst our emotions of pride of the Egyptian leadership that has rejected every single plan of the displacement of the Palestinians, this stance by Egypt, we are saying that we are backing the Egyptian leadership in the refusal of these plans that are unacceptable. As we know, you can never divide us. You can never divide us as Egyptians. We will always be as one. Secondly, we're seeing the different Libya, Sudan, Gaza, and Palestine, what's happening in the Red Sea, what is happening in the Mediterranean. All these lines are coming to fruition. Even the issue of the Renaissance dam, showing that the enemy is one. And just as the enemy is one, we as Egyptians are united and we are one, and we would never give over our land or our national security. Mr. President, Egypt has taken over the responsibility of the Palestinian cause. However, we also have a limit. The Egyptian patience has a limit with regards to what is happening by the Israeli occupation forces to force the Palestinians from their homes, from their land, that are being subjected to a horrific war, something that we can never accept, something that again guarantees that the whole world and the Egyptian nation to put the international community
يمكن لمصر أن تجمد وجودها في كل اتفاقيات منع تسلل اللاجئين عبر
in its place. Egypt can take different stances
وكل لاجئي العالم ليستوطنوا هناك ونرفع
that will show them the other side of the coin.
أمر لم يعد يمكن القبول به. مصر
The humanitarian aid that is being delivered through Rafah,
دخول المساعدات هو إسرائيل
and it is the Israeli occupation that is stopping the delivery of this aid and then bombing it and disrupting its delivery. We are all with the Palestinian cause. We are all with Palestine. We do not need to even discuss our love for Palestine. However,
وإن كنت أنا شخصيا أختلف مع حماس تنظيميا وفكريا
personally, I disagree with Hamas. However, resistance to the Israelis is something we must support and see that the right of the Palestinians to life is their right. There is a big difference between self-preservation and protection of life. This is the cause of a nation. This is the cause of the Egyptians that have lost so many martyrs for this cause. And we refuse anyone to say otherwise. We have seen thousands of Egyptian martyrs losing their lives for this cause, and from the Egyptian army as well. Clearly, Mr. President, I hope that the government takes all the necessary stances and measures to support the political leadership to stop this evil plotting. And we are waiting for the Egyptian state to face all possible scenarios in the upcoming future, to stop all these schemes that are targeting Egypt as well. From here, I'd like to ask the Prime Minister to tell us about the ideas and measures being prepared by the Egyptian state to face the issues of displacement and the attacks on the Palestinians. Long live Palestine. Mr. Aziz Matar, Member of Parliament. Thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to welcome the Prime Minister and my greetings to President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. I just want the people in Sinai to give a message from the people of Sinai to the President and the state. We support the President with regards to all his decisions. And we know that this is all for the sake of the Palestinian cause, to protect the Palestinian cause and protect the Palestinians against the plan of their displacement from their land, from the north to the south, to get them to the Rafah border crossing and into our land. The Palestinian cause will never end with Sinai. It will never end with our land in Sinai that has seen the blood of different Egyptians from every single governorate that has fought to protect the Egyptian land of Sinai. We are asking that the blood of our Egyptian martyrs never go to waste. We've lived over 11 years in Sinai with no security. And only over the last few years have we felt security in Sinai as a result of the development and hard work of the Egyptian state and the political leadership. We have never seen for years any national projects in Sinai. However, recently, the Egyptian government has carried out many national projects to develop Sinai, which we are extremely grateful for. We refuse and reject the dissolution of the Palestinian cause on account of Sinai. Sinai is a land that we have seen living through years. I want 3 messages to be delivered to the world. Firstly, we will never, ever let Sinai go, and we'll never leave Gaza. Second message, we refuse the displacement of the Palestinians into Sinai. Third, we call for the ceasefire in Gaza. We totally feel for the Palestinians and the people of Gaza. In Arish, the attacks that happen in Gaza, we can hear in Arish, from Arish. We're only 40 kilometers away from these attacks. We can hear the Israelis attacking them in Arish. We are also suffering. We're seeing our buildings being rocked by these attacks. The hospitals, the schools. From here, we are calling for the president to continue his stance with regards to the protection of Sinai. Thank you, Mr. Atif Maghaouri, Member of Parliament. Thank you, Mr. President. My greetings to the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, and I'd like to tell him destiny has called on you to be the Prime Minister in Egypt during this historical moment, and history will record your stances and the state's responses to protect the Egyptian land and our national security and our historical and religious and national protection of the Palestinian cause. Mr. President, we've seen in this session and in our emergency session of both Parliament and Shura on the 18th and 19th. And again, we are seeing and following up on every single stance taken by the Egyptian government since the 7th of October. When we are asking for the state to tell us about the necessary steps and measures that are put in place to face the Israeli aggression. All Egyptians are keen to know the state's plan under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that has called on the Egyptian people to delegate him to confirm their support of the president with regards to the measures needed to protect our national security here in Egypt. And we've seen the Egyptian citizens in 2013, in July, going out to the streets to delegate the army to protect our land. Always we have seen this plot to keep Sinai an area of contention. This plan, this idea of displacement and the removal of the Palestinians off their lands. This is not a new plan. We know it from 1903, after the Swiss meeting asked Egypt for a 99-year allowance for an agricultural company at the time. However, this was rejected since then. Sinai has always been part of their plot, as this is the land that they believe that should be returned to them. However, again, this was rejected at the time by the British powers that believed that this would impede the Suez Canal at the time and their maritime rights at the time. Again in 1917. Again, the Palestinian land was an issue of contention at the time. And after that, again in 1922, again the Palestinian land, again was an issue of contention. Mr. President, this has been the plan for many, many years, but it has never been successful as a result of the Palestinian resistance that was at the time under the leadership of the Egyptian army. Again, after 1967, again we saw a plan to reclaim this land. And they asked them, tribal leaders at the time, to declare their independence from Egypt. However, at the time, this was totally rejected and refused once again. Of course, the sons of Sinai are the sons of these great generations that have resisted all these attempts and all these attacks by the enemy. Mr. President, we are seeing these war crimes by the Israelis over the last 100 of years, especially during this critical time that we are now over 45 days of this massacre against the Palestinians. Which have broken every international law and norm. We are seeing From the beginning of this recent conflict, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's clear stance with regards to the protection of the Egyptian national security, we've seen even in the peace summit that was held in Egypt, and again in the Arab League meeting, and again with the political leadership's confirmation that Egypt, over the last 46 years, in November 1977, the President, Anwar al-Sadat, said his call for peace, and again on the 19th of November, his visit, Sadat's visit to Jerusalem and his address to the Israeli Knesset. We were against such a visit. And again, anything that lessens or attacks Egyptian national security, we reject. We again today, we are asking the Egyptian people to look into all agreements with regards to the latest developments that we are seeing on the ground and in the region, and all the security threats against Egypt. To draw from Sadat's words when he said, "I have not come here to have an independent peace agreement, because this will not create peace in the region until the Palestinian cause is resolved." Your Excellency, Mr. Prime Minister, we fought in 1948. There was no Israel at the time, but Egypt fought to protect the Palestinian people from the establishment of a Jewish nation. Egypt again fought in 1956 to use their right to free the Suez Canal against Britain, France, and Israel that tried to stop the independence of the Suez Canal at the time. And again, we've seen us coming out victorious in every single attack by the enemy. Again, in 1967, we were defeated. However, at the time, the Egyptian army fought back loyally until we were victorious on the 6th of October in 1973. Egypt is capable to protect our security, because the Egyptian people can face any challenges. What is happening in Gaza is the true Palestinian cause. However, it is also an Egyptian cause. What is happening now in Gaza also threatens Egyptian land and Egyptian security. We are asking again the state to explain what they will be doing to protect our national security and stop the aggression against the Palestinians and the transfer of the Palestinians off their lands. Again, we are seeing these unbearable attacks on our screens, and we are asking the Egyptian leadership to please inform us on the next steps, to face this plot against our country. Long live Egypt, and God protect the Egyptians, the Egyptian army, and the Palestinians. I am calling on you, Palestinians, to continue their resistance. Mr. Prime Minister, allow me, in appreciation of the Egyptian government's stance, to take this Palestinian flag on you, Prime Minister, to give this to you, Prime Minister, to further show our support and Egypt's support for the Palestinian cause.
بعد ذلك نستمع إلى سيادة النائب ضياء الدين داوود.
Mr. Diadin Dawood. Mr. President, members of Parliament, allow me to put aside any conflict, whether political or economic. This time is a historical moment in Egyptian history which needs unification and a specific, direct and honest protection of Egyptian national security as well as our Arab security. Mr. President, we have many questions. We are not here to debate with the government, but we are here to see our agreement with the Egyptian government. In the second segment of this agreement, it discusses the borders of the Egyptian land and what happens if these borders are crossed. If this agreement is no longer respected, then it should be destroyed for the sake of our Egyptian national security, because we have a great Egyptian army in which we trust in. And we know that the Egyptian national security and the Arab security is the priority. This is not an exceptional thing, however. We must agree I reiterate, we should never be part of any agreement that threatens the Palestinian cause or even our national security. We cannot accept such an agreement. I will not talk about the history of this conflict, as everyone now knows it. But this cause has now become a generational cause that has been moved from generation to the next.
كنا عندما نتحدث في الماضي ونتحدث زعماء بأن لا حل إلا بفلسطين دولة عربية نضع جيل النصر سيأتي
Now,
النصر في يوم من الأيام.
this is a reality. We have to let our future generations know
دولي بيقول إن إحنا نتعاطى
that we have to
معطيات الأمر الواقع
reach this two-state solution.
ومن ثم يأتي الحديث عن المعبر.
And this is from where
عن المعبر هنعرف أن المعبر جزء من اتفاق وهذا الاتفاق له ملاحق أمنية. إذا كان هذا
the latest talk about the border crossing
مصري فعلينا أن نفقد سيطرتنا
is part of an agreement.
جهتين.
However,
هذا التزام
if our national security
ضغط يصل إلى
is under attack, we have to protect our borders at all costs.
ماذا أنت فاعلة؟ سنكون أمام مشهد إنساني يصعب على أي
We have to tell
حي أن يتخلى فيه عن
the Egyptian
الوطنية
government to clarify its position with regards to
قوة
the protection,
في طويل.
even of the crossing.
علينا أن نفرض ونضع الحدود.
We have to put our borders between national security
لا ينتقل إلا للداخل.
and the change of the equation.
فقط ما هو واجب إنساني ووطن. إنما فرض الأمر الواقع.
What we're doing, our humanitarian role
الاستعمار الماضي
in the reception
وحليف الاستعمار حالي
of the injured
وهي حليفة كل استعمار لتصفية
and
المنطقة ومصر هي الجائزة الكبرى. هم كاتبين
to make sure
عارفين بيعملوا إيه.
the humanitarian supplies are delivered.
كان في دارفور عن اللي بيحصل مع سد
This is a plot that we've seen over the years.
وأنا آسف أن
All
للمرة العاشرة في هذا وفي ظل
the plots that we're seeing in the Arab region as a whole
يسقط الكثيرون
is their plan.
فيع مذل.
And unfortunately, some have fallen prey.
الاتفاق من أكثر من 50 سنة وهو موظف في إيد الشعب المصري لم يتعاطى معه. هي دي مصر.
This is Egypt, ladies and gentlemen,
نعم هي دي مصر قواتها المسلحة.
with our army,
مصر ببرلمانها وبناسها
with our parliament and
وحكومتها برضه.
government.
ما نختلفش على الأمن القومي المصري
We never ever disagree with regards to our national security.
علينا أن نعلن أن إحنا لسنا طرفا في مقررات العلا وما عندناش حكاية الدين الإبراهيمي بتاعهم ده ولا نعرف عنه حاجة. إحنا نعرف الإسلام والمسيحية واليهودية ما نعرفش حاجة اسمها الدين الإبراهيمي ولا
We know nothing about their Ibrahimi
في يوم من الأيام شركاء
religion.
لجارة كوشنر ما إحناش شركاء لدول.
We only know Christians, Muslims, and Jews.
أكثر إيجابية
Hence,
سحب السفير
we need to show them this.
طرد السفير الصهيوني من مصر ليس بالأمر السهل ولكن لابد أن نأخذ هذه
We have to take serious stances.
الدولة المصرية ولكن مش هيخفف الضغط عما يحدث. بيقصفوا المستشفيات المدارس
We're seeing them
وصفوا الداخل
attacking schools, attacking hospitals
رايح فين؟
and homes.
هيحصل إيه يعني؟ مفيش حاجة.
What more could they do?
أنت في مواجهة وأصبحت الدولة المصرية في مواجهة حقيقية.
And now the Egyptian state
مش بنطلب لرئيس الحكومة ولا بنطلب من الحكومة إن هي
has a role to play.
البرلمان. احنا قلنا احنا في حالة الصفاف. الشعب المصري أعلن ده. البرلمان المؤسسة التشريعية بتعلن ده. رئيس الجمهورية أعلن ده. حالة الاصطفاف دي هي مصدر القوة.
We're seeing
عارفين إن في الحالة ديت إن هيكون في تكلفة وإحنا مهمومين اقتصاديا وبنحاول إن إحنا
we're seeing the challenges even that we are facing economically. However, if we have to pay for our stance for the Palestinian cause, we will pay.
من باب المجازفة.
This is not
ليس من باب المجازفة.
even for risk taking, but part in that Egypt
مصر ديت هي الدولة القادرة
is capable
تغيير
of changing
الإقليمية.
the rules of the game, of the regional game. We have and we can,
الأحاديث اللي تتداولها وسائل الإعلام الدولية
and now we have to see
قروض 10
the international media's
ودايع ناس مش هتسمع
talk
ودايع لابد أن نفصل ما بين ما هو مستحق اقتصاديا لأن مصر
about
برضه مش دولة صغيرة
economic
نستجدي أحد
assistance.
كمان الاقتصادي هو مسؤولية العالم ومسؤولية الشركاء الإقليميين.
This is our role.
كتير مصر حايشة عن أوروبا وعن شركائها الإقليميين كتير.
Egypt is playing a critical role in the region.
نحن لا نستجدي أحد ولا بنطلب عطايا من أحد.
We ask for no help.
متعين على الجميع من حقوق
These are our rights.
يستطيعوا أن يحصلوها لولا أن هناك دولة كبيرة تسمى مصر في هذه المنطقة.
And this is why Egypt is a great nation in this region.
هي دي مصر دولة رئيس الوزراء. هنا في هذا التوقيت
Here, this is the stance of Egypt. We need clear responses, Mr. Prime Minister.
الرسائل واضحة للخارج الاستهانة بالأمن القومي المصري والأمن القومي العربي.
We are asking for clarification
العربية وسقوط الشهداء
by the
أبشع جرائم الاحتلال.
Egyptian government.
لم يعد هناك قانون دولي.
There is no longer an international law.
اتفاقية جنيف لم يعد له
We're no longer following any international law or humanitarian law. International institutions have lost their value.
سقطت في وحل التاريخ أمام صمود الشعب العربي الفلسطيني.
And this is now the case.
وعاشت
Long live Gaza, long live Palestine, long live Jerusalem.
العربية وفي القلب منها مصر عاصمة العروبة أبد الأبدين. شكرا سيادة
Thank you very much.
شكرا سيادة النائب طارق رضوان.
Mr. Tariq Radwan. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouly. I would like to very much thank the Head of Parliament for this session. This request by the Egyptian Parliament, this briefing request for the Prime Minister over the measures to prevent the forced resettlement of the Palestinians is a response to the Egyptian people's request. I would like to confirm our rejection, the Egyptian people's rejection of the forced resettlement of the Palestinians into Sinai. Number two, Egyptian national security is a red line which has been put in place for tens of years and has been paid the price for by many, many martyrs since 1948 and consequent wars till the Egyptian land was freed. The Palestinian cause has remained the main focus of Egyptians. Secondly, the Gaza war, since it started on the 7th of October, was unclear. However, it has put the Palestinian cause back on top of every single international agenda and Arab agenda and regional agenda. We've seen this with our children, with our youth, in the Egyptian universities, with the Egyptian people. Over 10 million Egyptians have indicated their rejection of what is happening to the Palestinians. Mr. Prime Minister, I was honored to accompany you to El Arish and the crossing, and I am asking for a verification with regards to the reality of what is happening in Sinai. The first issue is the criminal war that we are witnessing. There was a vision for the Egyptian leadership with regards to this, with regards to the re-establishment and rebuilding of Sinai to become an investment hub. We were surprised with regards to the amount of development and infrastructure developments in roads and schools and hospitals in Sinai and in the peninsula
لربط البحر الأحمر شرقا بالبحر الأبيض المتوسط شمالا بشبكة قطارات لنقل أو سهولة وسرعة نقل البضائع.
and we've seen this development to allow for more investments into Sinai and the Sinai Peninsula.
من منبر التشريع في مصر ومن مكاني هذا أن أتقدم بخالص التحية والتقدير إلى رجل وضع حياته على كفه
And I would like from my position here to thank very much
لإعادة الإعمار.
someone who took this decision.
السيد الرئيس
Thank you to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who took this difficult yet wise decision
الذي قاد مسيرة إعادة الإعمار
that
كنا بنسأل نفسنا
has allowed
الكلام ده في شبكات الطرق ليه؟ وبنبني
the development of Sinai.
كل الأسئلة دي موجودة عندنا في بيتنا وفي دوائرنا وفي كل حتة. النهارده
Today we understand,
زيارة مع سيادتك
after I visited the area with you,
إنجاز
I was extremely proud
بتكلم عليه الإجراءات
by the development I witnessed in the area.
من أجل حماية أبنائها الأطفال. شفت جيشي لأول مرة في ظهر
I have seen
المعرض. فتحية للجيش المصري.
the role of the Egyptian army as well.
المحور الثالث
Thirdly,
والأخير
and finally,
على سيادتكم حجم المساعدات التي تقدمت بها مصر إلى
the role that Egypt has played with regards to assisting Gaza.
على دماء.
I'll not speak about the martyrs.
نتكلم في الفترة من 7
I'm speaking about the period from the 7th of October until today. I have seen the youth and the volunteers persistent to get the humanitarian aid across and into Gaza, whether it's food or medical relief or even petrol that is needed for the functioning of hospitals in Gaza. I've seen youth that has become concerned with nationalism as well as the Palestinian cause. I've seen Egyptians volunteering even in the middle of our own economic hardship to support our brothers in Gaza. And this is not something to belittle. On the contrary, this is just like the 1973 war and Egypt's full support to the Palestinian cause and Egypt's strength in the region. The Palestinian cause will continue to be our priority and on top of all our agendas.
منابر أخرى منابر المحاكم الجنائية الدولية نجرب مرة واثنين وثلاثة شفنا شعوب كانت واخدة
We've seen
رؤى
people
معاكسة تماما إلى
taking
الفلسطينية ومساندة
different stances with regards to the Palestinian cause, but now
الإسرائيلية ويمكن تعاطفت الشعوب في هذه الدول وبدأت تتحرك في
we are seeing
مظاهرات وضغط
different stances. And we are seeing now protests all around the world from different peoples going against their leaders and supporting the Palestinian cause. Let us not lose hope in the cause and our leadership. Thank you very much, sir.
الآن يتفضل سيادة الدكتور رئيس مجلس الوزراء بالرد على
Now, Mr. Prime Minister, it is your time to respond to the requests over the measures that the government is taking to prevent the resettlement of the Palestinians.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of God.
سيد المستشار الدكتور حنفي جبالي رئيس
Mr. Hanafi Gebeli, Councillor Hanafi Gebeli, Head of the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, members of Parliament and Head of committees,
أعضاء المجلس القومي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
peace be upon you all.
بداية
In the beginning,
أود أن أشكر حضراتكم على إتاحة هذه الفرصة
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to brief you on the measures of
الماضية
the Egyptian government and that will continue be implemented to support
ثلاث المستويات
our brothers, the Palestinians, whether politically, diplomatically or internationally. I followed with concern all the requests from the members of parliament with regards to the measures by the state to prevent the forced resettlement of the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, which of course reflects the clarity of what Egypt is facing in terms of challenges and pressures, economic and political. A number of members of parliament said that we should expect more economic pressure in the upcoming period. However, these pressures have been already exerted on Egypt for a long time. With regards to the difficult global economy, there is always attacks on smaller countries and the implementation of agendas, and they always discuss how to attack such nations. Of course, since 2011, I don't have to tell you about the agenda that was being put up against Egypt. And we will still face these challenges and pressures as a state. Therefore, our political leadership had a vision, as many of you said. It was not understood why many national projects were being implemented and why the Egyptian army was being strengthened. And now, as we see what is happening today and over the last 2 years, globally and internationally and regionally, we now know why this was occurring and at this speed at the time. The pressures and challenges facing the region and Egypt are not few, however. The Egyptian state knew the size of such challenges, and that is why, let me confirm some truths that are clear. Firstly, the Egyptian support to the Palestinian people during their current crisis and the Palestinian cause as a whole is not something new, but is the continuation of the Egyptian historic role that will never give up the Palestinian cause. I think Egypt, I don't want to say that we were the only country that has our own agenda with regards to the Palestinian cause. On the contrary, Egypt has sacrificed for the Palestinian people and will continue to do so and will stand by the Palestinians with regards to the Palestinian cause. And we have been dealing with the different factions of the Palestinians for the sake of the Palestinian people. The Egyptian vision with regards to the Palestinian-Israeli issue is that the only solution is a two-state solution that will confirm the 4th of June 1976 agreement of a two-state solution with East Jerusalem as its capital. The Israeli policy of the displacement and resettlement of the Palestinians has great consequences. The only way to solve this is the two-state solution. And since the first day of the attacks, we have tried to discuss issues related to ceasefires and the need to go to the two-state solution and the political solution, the discussion, and to reach a final settlement with regards to the two-state solution. Our army's victory in 1973 was not just to reclaim our land, but to show the region and the world our strength. Even the United Nations, at the end of 1974, spoke about a resolution about the Palestinians' right to self-determination. And in 1979, Egypt and Israel signed a peace treaty which confirmed that peace in the region will never happen just as a result of the agreement between Egypt and Israel, but as a result of peace in all the Arab region and the Palestinian cause to self-determination, not just between Egypt and Israel, but Israel and all its Arab neighbors. To support the Palestinian cause and our continuation in this regard, President al-Sisi has exerted his utmost efforts with regards to this cause. And in the recent crisis, the President was the first to support a summit, the Cairo Peace Summit at the new administrative capital, where he spoke with the President. He spoke about our clear stances of the Egyptian state, his rejection of the attacks and killing of Palestinian civilians, the continued operation of the Rafah border crossing, the rejection of the forced resettlement of the Palestinians away from the Gaza Strip, as well as the dissolution of the Palestinian cause. Mr. President confirmed in the summit held in Riyadh that this is absolutely rejected. Mr. President is continuing to lead the Egyptian state either politically, diplomatically, or in a humanitarian manner to stop this war and stop the attacks on the Palestinians. Again, this is a continued role that Egypt is playing, that has played over the years, as you all mentioned, that we have seen Egypt calling for the 4th of June 1967 border and right for the Palestinian establishment of the Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. From the first moment, Egypt has condemned the Israeli attacks and the occupation forces' attacks on the Palestinian civilians in Gaza and the breach of all international laws and international norms in this regard. Egypt fully rejects the targeting of the innocent civilians and their homes, the hospitals, the schools, religious buildings like mosques and churches that should be protected under international law. Egypt has again rejected the collective punishment policy by Israel. Egypt has taken many measures on political and diplomatic levels to call for a ceasefire, and we are continuing to do so every hour, not just every day, to allow Mr. President had a large role with regards to meeting and speaking to different leaders from all around the world for these calls. Egypt fully acknowledges that the Palestinians are aware of their rights and how what is being called for would dissolve the Palestinian cause. Egypt has called on every single institute and organization to assist with the humanitarian aid. We're talking about over 11,200 tons of humanitarian aid: food, water, medical supplies, tents, fuel, amongst other things, in order to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza. With regards to the economic challenge facing Egypt and the world, this capacity is about 4 times the amount of the aid sent by other countries from all around the world. All that we've received is just 3,000 tons from all around the world of aid. However, we have already provided 4 times this amount, and will continue to do so. Since Saturday, I was there to send over 200 cars, the biggest convoy, to cross into the Gaza Strip. And we will continue to send over these convoys, and next week there will be another one, and we will continue sending as much humanitarian aid and relief as possible. Also, we have a full plan in place to assist the injured, all the Palestinians that have been injured that will cross through the Rafah border crossing. We've already received 8,200 injured nationalities from different countries, and there's over 383 injured Palestinians, the last of which to arrive in Egyptian hospitals were the 28 premature neonatal babies that have been received in Egypt. We as a government have a clear plan for the medical aid and supplies, as well as medical assistance. All the hospitals in Sinai and all the hospitals in the Suez Canal are all ready. Even Cairo hospitals are all ready to receive all the injured, especially that need surgery to save their lives. We have over 30,000 medical practitioners on standby every 24 hours to serve our families from Gaza, in addition to all the medical aid and supplies that have been provided. Of course, I'd like to thank all NGOs for their great humanitarian role with regards to all the help and humanitarian aid and medical aid that they are offering and continue to. We're seeing the role played by these NGOs. I was very happy to see all the volunteers and all the volunteer work that is being done. Here I'd like to confirm something that some of you mentioned. The Rafah border crossing has not been closed, not even a single moment. We've been accused that we have prevented the delivery of aid. However, this is not true and has never happened. This is part of the plot. Again, the Egyptian border Rafah crossing has not been closed for a single moment. And we were telling all media outlets, Egypt there are actually 2 crossings, Rafah and the Rafah side, the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing. And unfortunately, this has been attacked several times since the beginning of the siege to prevent and hamper the delivery of aid. And even, but we were very cautious to help in the rebuilding of this crossing from the Palestinian side. However, the main problem